Hey guys, this is Tim. This is the first lecture. I just kind of an introductory lecture, so don't write any notes on this. I'm going to go off on a lot of tangents. If you know me, you know how I am. But anyway, I want to give a brief overview of what we're going to do in this class. And so to start off with, I think I have this on here. I'm big on interconnection. It's like I've done way too many psychedelics. Don't get me started. I'll talk about that on other lectures. But I see how everything is interconnected. John Muir, I think, has this quote. It says, "It's impossible to tug on anything in nature without finding out that everything else is connected to it." Okay, so this interconnection, one of the analogies that I use is called the tapestry trip. Trip. I use that word because of acid. But anyway, a lot of times people get into their own uniqueness. These are the threads right here. It's like, oh my God, I'm a blue thread. And they run around the world and try to be the most unique thread. And so that's the celebration of self or ego. But what I'm about is the celebration of like the universe or the cosmos. And so if we take all those threads and interconnect them, we get the tapestry. The tapestry is what's important. Yeah, your individual thread's important in a way, but that's like waves in the ocean. The ocean is important. And the ocean, whatever you want to call that, the cosmos, or for lack of a better word, God, that's what we should celebrate is the tapestry, not the individual threads. Okay, enough about that. Now, as far as this class is concerned, I'm not here to make you into a certain religion. I'm a Catholic. I'm not here to make you Catholic. If you're an atheist, be a good atheist. Tim could be completely wrong. But the way I see it, and also I think this is the way that Gandhi sees it, is religions are just highways to God. God's sitting at the end of the destination. He doesn't need a highway to himself. Religions are these man-made tools to try to get close to God. Now, they've become perverted in different ways, but in the pure form, they're a good tool to connect or yoke with God. We'll get into yoga later. Okay, so Buddha, he wasn't a Buddhist. There wasn't any Buddhism before Buddha. There was no Christianity before Jesus. Same thing about Islam. It's like, so they were just teachers, and afterwards we took their teachings and then fabricated these highways to get to God. I hope y'all are with me. I wish we were in class right now. Okay, so here's my homeboy, Dalai Lama. He says, if you're a Muslim, be a good Muslim. Don't be a Christian. If you're a Jew, be a good Jew. And if you're a Christian, be a good Christian. If you're not religious, try to be a nice person, which I loosely translate into just don't be a dick. You know what I mean? And I can be a dick too. Okay, so here we go. The three major religions we'll start off with are called Abrahamic. Why? Because Abraham is the father of all these three, even though they fight with each other the most. Sounds like our regular families, right? And so I don't want to go off on Abrahamic religions, but if you think about where Abraham came from, he came from this place called Ur. Eventually, he made a pilgrimage. But in Ur, where his daddy Terah and him lived, they eventually left Ur. I can't ever say it right, but here it is right here. Why do I have these people down here? Because the Pope, he's also my homeboy. Love the Pope. He totally embraces everything that needs to be embraced, but he went right up into, this territory, Islamic territory, and met with people and brought all these world leaders together from the different faiths because he understands we're from different traditions and we don't need to make each other the same. He's done the same thing with the Greek Orthodox Church, which we've been schismed from since I think 1054. Okay, let's don't go too far down that rabbit hole. Okay, so if I look at the layout of religions, I never knew why Africa was so Muslim, but that's because Mecca's right here. It's like, and then you have a lot of Christianity, the kind of purpley parts right in here and here, and then these parts over in here are the Eastern religions, which I'll get into second. Okay, so Christianity, I think that this is like getting closer to Islam, and I really think this is getting the biggest, which is atheism. I think it's bigger than that. Then I'll talk about Hinduism, Buddhism, and then Taoism because it's just something I want to talk about. We'll get back to that. Okay, so here it is. These are the six major religions. I'm not an expert. If you take Dr. Valley's class, he's a lot better than me, but I broke them into, these three, and then the Abrahamic religions are right down in here. Okay, so I really will start with the Eastern. I might have gotten that backwards, and then I'll go into the Abrahamic because they're the later religions. But I'm just going to give you a brief primer on each one of these, so I don't know. I'll try to tell you what's important. Okay, in this next section, I wanted to go through a few ideas that were proposed by this guy, William James, right here. William James is the father of American psychology, and so he was a major player in the early beginnings of psychology. In the early 1900s, I think he wrote this book, The Varieties of Religious Experience. And in this book, he talks about a lot of different things that are way ahead of their time. But one of the ideas that I want to get into, I'm going to go through a couple of his ideas, is this. Even if you're an atheist and you say religion is totally bullshit, there's no God, it's all made up, it's man made, you can't deny that religion does influence people's thoughts, feelings, and behavior. This is psychology. So, as psychologists, we study how people think, feel, and act. And religion is a major player that shapes how people think, feel, and act. I mean, I'm Catholic, so they have something called formation. It forms your head, right? And so, if you think about formation, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, they're going to affect your thoughts, feelings, and behavior, maybe in every single way. Okay. Now, another idea he has besides that idea, I love that idea, is personal versus corporate religion. I think a lot of the reason that people hate religion is because of the corporation. They see the Catholic Church as like, oh my God, it's horrible. Yeah, but they don't see individual priests that are out there, like helping the poor and feeding people. It's like they just want to pick on the big corporation. I could like pick on every single religion, even Hinduism, and point things like this out, because in there they have the caste system, etc. But I don't know if you've seen this movie. I think I have it on here. I love the Book of Eli. It's so awesome because Eli, he wants to keep the word pure, use religion in the right way. It's like it's not bad, it's how it's used. But Gary Oldman in the movie has a much different idea. He says it's a weapon, the Bible, a weapon aimed right at the hearts of the weak and the desperate. I can control people with it. And so this is a misuse of the word versus the correct use of the word. Okay, I could come back to this again and again, but this is what William James says. What is personal religion? Is your feelings, acts, and experience when you're alone, completely alone. God, I wish I could remember exactly the scripture from the Bible where it says, don't babble like the pagans do in public where everybody can see you. Go to your closet alone and pray to your Father. That's what I call your religion. It's when you're alone with the divine. That's why I hike all the time. Or even this morning, I was alone at church. The hour before church was way better than when church started. And I think I have this quote. I like this silent church before the service begins better than any preaching. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Okay. Now, here we go. Of course, there's an overlap between corporate and personal religion, right? There's a little bit of both, but here in the middle. But if you're all corporate, I mean, that's devoid of spirituality. All personal, it's like maybe you're a monk and you don't have any contact, with the outside world. So most of us are kind of caught in betwixt. Okay, so one of the next ideas I wanted to go into is this idea that churches or mosques or temples or whatever you want to call it, they attract groups of like-minded people. Now, that's kind of a good thing and kind of a bad thing. I'm a social psychologist and I'll have a section on social psychology later. But I'm going to call it the hive instead of the church because, I don't know, social psychology. Okay, so beehives serve as more than a place just to make honey. They're an information exchange center. And so bees will actually come in. I'm glad I have this little bee doing a dance. And when they fly in, I see beehives all the time on my hikes in the desert. They fly in, and the way they dance communicates all kinds of things about prevailing predators, the wind, location of pollen, all kinds of other stuff. Okay, same thing about us. We come into hives, but we come into hives of like-minded people. You think about the church as a hive. You're not going to have all kinds of different people at the church. Sometimes you do, like at a Unitarian church, but a lot of times people are already similar. And so if you fly into a particular church, let's say I fly into, I think it's going to go into the Jewish church up here, temple, then it's like I'm going to be around all kinds of other Hebrews. We're all going to think the same. Same thing if you go into the Christian or the Muslim. Maybe you should go into different ones so you get different ideas, but see, that's no bueno. So once you get these like-minded people together, then some interesting things start to happen. Your beliefs become strengthened, which is good in a way, but in some ways it can become strengthened for bad. Later on we'll talk about cults and brainwashing. Okay, so one of the ideas I love talking about is social reality. I think I have two quotes. One is by Joseph Goebbels. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. Huh. He was the head of Nazi propaganda. Maybe he knows something. The other one is this, Louise Nevelson. What we call reality is just an agreement that people have arrived at to make life more livable. And see, this is why I assign Jonathan Livingston Seagull. Because he doesn't see the way the rest of the flock instead of a hive, but it's the same thing sees. And they don't like that. And so that's why I want you to relate it to your life as you start, thinking about your Jonathan project. Okay, so I have this next little idea that does relate to social reality because you could be saying, I know what's real. Tim's talking about all this bullshit, and especially this is a psychology class. We're not in chemistry or physics. Let's just say I have a cat. And I also have a laser pointer. As I start to move this laser pointer around, that cat thinks it's real. It doesn't understand that it's coming from that source, that it's not an animated object. Try to explain that to the cat. What if God is the holding the laser pointer and we're the cat? You see what I'm talking about? We think we know it's real. I don't know if you've heard the allegory of the cave, but in Plato's allegory of the cave, there's these people that have been raised their whole life chained to the floor down here, where all they can see are these shadows on the wall. I don't know if you can see this little picture. That are created by these people back here in front of this fire up here that are casting the shadows. So these people have a much different view of reality than these people. Going, look at these dopes. They think this over here on the wall is reality. Let me erase some of this. Now, if you climb a little further up the cave, these people have a much different view than these people right here, if you catch my drift. And finally, these people say, oh, there's a whole other world out here that these people, and these people are still completely unaware of. This is the nature of life. Okay, and so why is Tim yammering on and on about this? Because it has everything to do, if I can get this off of here, got that little laser pointer going, with us. Maybe sometimes even Tim, I'm sitting right down in here. I don't want to go off on Shutter Island right now, but I'm just thinking about Shutter Island. I know what's going on. But another movie that's based on the allegory of the cave completely, it's called The Matrix. Right? If you're stuck in the Matrix down here, you don't know what Neo does once he's released from the Matrix. And so what I want to do is play a clip from the Matrix, and it has everything to do with the allegory of the cave. And when Neo finally wakes up and climbs out of the cave to meet Morpheus, and Morpheus is the god of sleep. So I'm going to show this clip. Hopefully YouTube doesn't take it off. It's not that long, and then I'll come back and we'll wrap everything up.
I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice. Tumbling down the rabbit hole?
You could say that.
I can see it in your eyes. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back.
Oh, get off there.
You take the blue pill. The story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world.
This can't be.
Be what? Be real? Welcome to the real world.
This isn't real.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed that clip of The Matrix. I love that whole part, you know. Neo chooses to take the red pill, and when he takes the red pill, he chooses to wake up. But when you wake up, and I'll get into the jihad later, the holy struggle, you see the struggle going on. A lot of times, like Cypher, it would be easier to take the blue pill. I hope some of y'all know what I'm talking about, and just go back to sleep and go back into the Matrix, and everything's safe and comfy and warm. Go back to the bottom of the cave, if you will. Because when you wake up and come out here, it's like higher levels, higher devils, right? And so we'll get into that a little bit later, but as you awaken to the nature of what's going on. Okay, so what I want to do in this last little section is address something that, you know, is near and dear to Tim's heart, you know, because I don't know, I've struggled with depression and anxiety and tried all different kinds of treatments. Right now I'm doing TMS, and as a part of that, I'm doing this thing with Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Yourself. You don't have to like it, but this is what I want to base this part on. And it's based on this idea. A thought is just a thought. But a thought starts to create reality, just like I've been mentioning before. And so if I tell myself a lie big enough and I keep saying it over and over and over, then I will become to believe it. Now, I stole Joseph Goebbels', quote. I just substituted me, for other people. Now, Joseph Goebbels does this in Nazi Germany, is able to, brainwash this whole society, but I brainwash myself. And what is the lie? There is only one lie. I hope you don't tell yourself this lie, but there's only one lie that most people tell themselves. I don't want to start crying yet. I'm not good enough. I came here to say, fuck that bullshit. You know what I mean? But this is the lie I tell myself over and over and over. I'm 54. I hope you haven't been telling yourself this lie. Because it ain't right. It just ain't right. You've been brainwashing yourself. And take it from the Jedi Master of brainwashing himself with this lie. See, it becomes like I become a prisoner of my own thoughts. I make this thought prison that I have to live in. God damn it, I didn't think I would cry. But I didn't know I created it, because I kept telling myself this lie, I'm not good enough, over and over and over and over for years and years and years. And see, when you get that in your head, I'm not good enough, and I don't know where it comes from. Louise Hay says, well, it could come from the home you grew up in. I don't want to go there yet. It could come from some of your teachers in the schools and what they said about you. Or it could even come from the church you grew up in. But all these things tend to help brainwash you, and you do too, and then you start seeking some medicine. for that struggle. You know what I'm talking about, right? Because it's getting fucking real right now. And you start seeking that medicine to make that feeling go away. You just want it to go away. And a lot of times I seek it in these kinds of ways, sex or drugs or alcohol, or it could be shopping, not for me necessarily. I mean, I buy electronic gadgets, but attention and achievement, I'm going to get into these two. And those become temporary medicines, just like a big pharma medicine that doesn't really take away my struggle. Because these are what Tim calls the false prophets. If you believe in that, just go to the church of sex or the church of drugs or the church of big pharma or attention or money. Just go to those churches. See, they ain't going to fix my problem. They ain't going to fix what Tim got. See, are you a human being or a human doing? We're supposed to be this. But I kept thinking with achievement and attention, if I could just achieve enough things. I was valedictorian. I was an Eagle Scout. Went through, graduated with honors, then got my PhD, then did a postdoctoral fellowship, then, eventually this didn't do any good. It wouldn't fix it. That medicine wouldn't work. See, because you have worth already. No matter what you do in life, you can't do enough to make that different. It's not what you do, it's who you already are. It's the essence of who you are. And this is what Tim came to planet Earth to tell you, is this right here. See, because that's just a thought. Just a fucking thought that you're not good enough. That's just a thought. And you see, it becomes a prison sometimes. But the good news, and I have some good news about it, is you have a key. And the key is called self-love. It's the only way out of that prison. You can try the false prophets, but they're not going to work. And you have to start telling yourself something better. That you are good enough. And you don't have to do anything to be good enough. You see, some of y'all might have grown up with a God that told you this, that you're not good enough and you're going to hell. I'm going to burn you in a lake of fire. Because that's what I grew up with. I didn't understand no different. See, God is unconditional love. That's all he is. 100% unconditional love. You have always and always will be good enough. Always. And so the way that I'm going to kind of wrap it up today is with Mr. Rogers. You don't ever have to do anything sensational for people to love you. You've always been good enough. And you might not be Christian like me, but that's the good news, because there's a new covenant. Because it is finished. The old covenant, where I have to do a lot of stuff to earn daddy's or God's love, that's done. Fuck that bullshit. There's a new covenant. And in this covenant, you're good enough.